Great. Okay. Is Senate institutions, Thursday, February 19th. We have one item on the agenda this afternoon. We're talking about the capital budget adjustment bill number, which I don't have in front of me. But we have Joe Asia here to talk about it. You come on up whenever you're ready. The echo's off. Great. Oh, and Chair Harrison is here.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you, Senator Plunkett, for taking care of this. And hi, Joe. It's been a while. Feels like it's been a while. Other Joe, two Joes. Yeah.
Several weeks. Let me get ready here. Before I start, Lauren Washburn is also here. She's my program chief. She's going to be discussing major maintenance because she actually is responsible for dealing with all the funding and major maintenance, reviewing the projects all the projects that are put up and handing out the money. So she's the important one for major maintenance. I can get my screen shared here. Lauren, you're up.
Okay. Hi, I'm Lauren Washburn. I am Program Chief for Design and Construction with Buildings and General Services. I oversee the Major Maintenance Program. Major maintenance covers the large repairs and major system replacement in BGS-owned buildings. We have over 240 buildings and 4 million square feet of space statewide. 25% of those buildings are 24/7 facilities. So correctional facilities, mental health care facilities, labs, state police barracks. And because of that, that makes them more maintenance intensive. They're just seeing a lot more use than our office buildings. So our major maintenance projects focus on what we call priority 1 items. And those are life safety or code compliance issues, equipment that's at end of life, or a system failure is imminent, or if it were to fail, it would be really disruptive to the operation of the facility. And then we have, looking on the right side of the slide, we have about 2.7 million available in funds to get us through the remainder of fiscal year 26. And that is showing the balance of the 12 million and then taking back the funds that we are asking for FY27. Next slide, Joe. So management of our major maintenance funds. So work orders that are too large or complex for our operations and maintenance staff to perform in-house, those get added to what we call our deferred maintenance list. And items are added to that list continually as needs arise. Twice a year, we select major maintenance projects from that deferred maintenance list using approximately half of the appropriation for each project selection cycle. And how that works, operations and maintenance districts, there's 6 of them. They prioritize the most critical projects in their district. And then those projects are considered on the individual priorities within the district, overall priorities statewide, estimated project cost, and then the available major maintenance funds. When we select projects, we call them planned projects. They get assigned to a project manager. Typically, we assign about 60 projects each project selection cycle. So that will happen. Typically, it's in July and February, thereabouts. We did not do a project selection cycle this February because of the amount of money that we've got left. Projects that are not funded will remain on the deferred maintenance list, and then they get considered on a future project selection cycle. I also hold some major maintenance funds aside for unplanned and emergency projects. Those would be an unplanned example would be something that has failed. It's on our deferred maintenance list, but it's failed sooner than we thought and really should get repaired before waiting till the next project selection cycle. And then emergency projects are anything that has immediate impact to building or building occupants. Next slide.
Yeah,
Joe.
If you can hold on, Lauren,
Yep.
so how do you prioritize? I know you have a maintenance schedule, but there are always things that pop up unexpectedly and things. How do you go through your prioritizing what you need in your buildings?
So I meet with the program chief from operations and maintenance every other week, and we're looking at new items that have come in. And if it appears to be a typical item that's been identified as deferred maintenance, but it's not something that's an emergency or needs to get dealt with right away, we add it to the deferred maintenance list. We're also evaluating those items to make sure that if it is something that should get addressed sooner, we're getting that assigned to a project manager to get completed. We used to do assignment of all the major maintenance money in July when we got the appropriation. And then we started switching to every 6 months because it just allows us to better plan how much we're spending, what's come in for unplanned or emergencies that we've had to deal with in the meantime.
Thank you, Lauren.
On this slide, the left chart, so the value of our deferred maintenance list is shown in purple. The major maintenance money that we are appropriated every year is shown in green. And then the actual major maintenance money that we have spent or encumbered each year is shown in blue. So you will see that we have exceeded our major maintenance appropriation in each of the last 4 years in the amount of major maintenance money that we've spent. And we've been able to do that because we've had prior year appropriations left over. So we've used that funding to make up the gap. The number for fiscal year 26, that is just through December 31st. So since then, I've assigned about another $500,000 in major maintenance requests since January 1st. We have slowed down our major maintenance spending because of the lack of funds that we have to get us back to July. Those projects, we've put some back on the deferred maintenance list, and particularly if they hadn't been started by the project manager yet, some things we have stopped at the end of the design phase before it goes out to construction. Deferred projects that are currently on the list, some examples: flooring, siding, window replacements. We've got plaster repairs, repointing a couple of our correctional facilities, the brick. We've got some roof replacements, parking lot repaving. Currently, the deferred maintenance list has over 190 work orders on it. And then the chart on the right just shows how I was saying we're spending more than we have in our appropriation. So it just shows the breakdown between the old funds and then the current year funds. So 5 years ago, we were spending old money first. Most of the money that we were spending was old money, and then we were using that current year's appropriation. And then you can see that as we've gotten up to this year, that has shifted, and we are spending primarily the fiscal year 25 funds. 90% has been current year funding.
Laura, this is Senator Plunkett. Oh, and Wendy, I can't see you on the screen, so if you do have a question, just sort of speak up. But just looking at the cost of deferred maintenance over the years, it seems like from fiscal year 24 to 25, there was a fairly significant drop, and then from fiscal year 25 to 26, fairly significant increase. Is there any explanation for why there's that fluctuation?
Sometimes it depends on the building that we're doing projects in. So as an example, we were doing a door control project at one of our correctional facilities. Because that was so disruptive, we also did a bunch of smaller major maintenance things at the same time. So sometimes the work orders will drop back off and then they will climb back up. I also go out and meet with the districts, and I have been advocating for making sure that they're getting items in. We switched to a new work order system a few years ago. And as we have staff turnover, we try and retrain people on making sure that work orders get put in earlier, because you can always update the priority. Sometimes we might put something in that's a lower priority just as a placeholder because we know it's coming. And then we update it as the item deteriorates.
So basically nothing that is any sort of pattern or anything that's.
Not
Usually,
really.
yeah.
I mean, generally the list has been about the same similar value, you know, and items come off when we do project assignments, and then it's been that same amount of items comes back on the list by the time we're assigning more projects.
Great, thanks.
Rob, I do have a question. And nice to meet you, Lauren.
Yes.
Congratulations on the job. It's a really important job. The prior appropriations that you have shown in the right-hand slide, is that in one fund? And it looks like the fund or the account is reducing, and I suspect that's why the funding is, you know,
It's more than one fund. It was multiple years of older major maintenance money. And then part of my responsibilities when people need major maintenance funds for a project to look at what our oldest funding is and get that spent. So we're working from, you know, maybe the fiscal year 22 funds and forward. So in this case, the orange is all of the prior year funds combined, just to show like the green is you know, in FY22, we're spending a small amount of FY22's appropriation and able to use the prior year's funds. As those funds have gone down, that proportion is shifting.
Okay, so how much is left in the prior year funds, roughly?
Very little. I want to say, did not check that right before here. I think,
Okay.
Joe,
Yeah, that's fine. You don't need to know the exact amount, but that's what I was wondering is if those have reduced so that
Yes.
we'll be working with current year funds.
Yep, it's primarily current year funds. I would say it's a very small percentage. Like you can see, it was about 90-10 the other way in FY22, and it's kind of flipped. We spent, you know, 600 in the old money so far this fiscal year, but I think we're down to a few $100,000, but I would need to confirm that.
All right, and I guess just a follow up. So the 22 is probably coming out of COVID, right? Because we couldn't do a lot of projects. So
Yes.
this is the backlog. Okay. All right.
It was COVID, and it was also, we were short, I think, 5 project managers at that time also. So that's really why that bubble was there, and we're only shy of 1 project manager right now, so we're catching up on any and old past work and spending the dollars.
That's great. So that won't be a normal pattern.
Correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
That's it for major maintenance. Anything else? So we're getting into statewide planning reuse and contingency. And then what this is used for projects that are not yet a line item, maybe we should look into it. So here, the photo that we see here on this page is for the Middlesex site that we own in public safety in this small little rectangle building, sort of the center left. They moved to Berlin, and on the right, we do have the juvenile facility that is there. Let's say juvenile facility is supposed to go away. Public safety building is vacant. What can we use this property for? And so we use planning money to do that. So,
I'm sorry, you use what?
we use the planning funds
Planning.
to go through and go, hire an architectural engineering team to come in and say, what's the best use of this site? How big of a building can we go down, put on the site? What's that? What you have to take into account in this day and age, and also do your stormwater. So the more impervious surface you put, the more stormwater you have to deal with and much of that. So they went through there and then came up with a plan for us to evaluate, because we haven't moved forward yet with the replacement juvenile or a new juvenile facility. Those plans are, they're sitting there until we do have an opportunity to move forward to know really what's going to happen next. And then we have reuse. Reused comes around where it's not necessarily another department's wish on moving or being moved for some reason. It could be, we got to replace an electrical panel. When you replace an electrical panel, you got to meet today's codes, and some of them were put in behind desks and the likes of that. And so you got to relocate these people, and some of it's pretty easy. Some of them, take a little bit more. You're relocating one desk can be relatively easy. One would think, but they're in this room, this pod they work in, and so how do you then rearrange the rest of that potential floor plan so that they all still fit and we have a required space in front of the electrical panel. Then there's contingency. In the past, contingency has not come into play a lot because of the funds that we've had in place, certainly with major maintenance and likes of that we could dip into. But contingency is there for these line item projects that it's our only means to continue the project going forward. So the commissioner allowed up to $100,000 to spend out of this fund to keep a project moving. Otherwise, we would, if it's off session, had to go ultimately up to the E board to ask for additional funding. And where's that funding coming from? To back that up. So that's where our contingency is coming in. I believe the way the economy is and everything else, the use of that could become more and more unless things change. But that's what planning reusing contingency is for.
So that particular, how many acres? Is it?
There's a 10-acre plot, and then I forget the other on the left-hand side. There's a large building there where Sarah is, and I forget what's on the right-hand side. Probably another. I forget.
Okay.
They were combined when we purchased that. It used to be a ball field at one point in time until I really hit. We had to build a temporary mental health facility here before we built up in Berlin. And that's what these trailers were brought in for, to house those individuals. And then they were vacant for a while and been used by the juveniles off and on, and they're there now.
Okay.
So people are in those now?
Yes, there are 4 juvenile beds in that those 2 buildings.
And that's on the right-hand side?
Yes, the bottom line.
Thank you.
Next up is statewide physical security enhancements. And what this does is a lot of the card readers, all the security stuff that goes with that, the cameras, lockdown alarm systems, and like so that. It's really about maintaining those. When I have a line item to renovate a floor or a building, we will incorporate in that line item any of the requirements for card readers and security and the likes of that. But these are to do the replacement of that or to add, there's a one-off, once somebody's using a space or something has changed, the back door all of a sudden is the better door to have the card reader on. This is where they will go through and put that card reader in and likes of that.
Joe, I just had a question. Middlesex isn't necessarily Burlington, but if this facility is no longer being utilized, has it been rolled into the search for a new site for a women's prison? Would this be something that could be considered?
If I back up, and I can't show that on screen, but and the answer is no. The short answer is no, because this here is the juvenile facility, these 2 wings, and they're just mobile units. They're sitting up on stands. The fence area. Then we have here the public safety building, a garage, and then all of this here is the Visera building, and that's always going to remain there.
Okay.
So the usable land is somewhat in here. There's sewer systems and the likes of that. Our study that we looked at was potentially the replacement of the liquor warehouse down here on Green Mountain Drive. And could it fit on that site? Because again, it's very close to the interstate. It's the top right corner. You can see it.
Where the site's
Right.
I guess I just misunderstood. I thought that the whole site was no longer being fully utilized, and I was thinking that would be large enough, but that's not the case.
Correct. Thank you. Yes. Physical security enhancements, is any questions on that? We're reporting on another 250,000 in bond funds and 225,000 in cash. And a lot of that reasoning is our security group is behind. A lot of things are changing over the years now, of needing additional security enhancements going through. Three-acre stormwater compliance. This year, we're getting another $1.1 million. We haven't spent a lot of money yet, other than in design and permitting. However, we should be out shortly for 3 sites. Middlesex, which is that site you just saw where we just spoke about, the juvenile facility in Becerra, Northwest State Correctional Facility, and Pittsburgh. Also on that list, though, is the Virgin site. Design is complete on that one. We're working on Waterbury complex. We have a partial stormwater plan on that. It's just augmenting that from what was not picked up when we renovated back after Irene. Northern State Correctional Facility. We do have some stormwater ponds up there. However, they're slightly undersized, but we're literally stuck between a ledge, 2 roads, and wetlands. So it's how to make that all work. They're working on a plan. And then we have lastly do Montpelier. We have down at the Department of Labor and also for here at the complex. We've held off on the complex because of the not knowing what we're going to be doing after the 23 flood and how that rebuild is going to look. So right now we've held off. There's on the northern side, the State House side of State Street, there's not a lot of place to put stormwater ponds. So we're quite limited. 133 State Street parking lot does have some swales that are in there for stormwater, and they, I think, were done pre-Irene. So those are the early days, but we still need to capture a lot more than we have. But it's, you know, if we're looking under stormwater under parking lots, may or may not be under the State House lawn. But that's, you know, we're very limited because of the buildings and the parking lots of where that stormwater runoff can go to settle back into the ground. But so hopefully next year, if presenting what's left, we should be well on our way for most of our projects being complete.
So Joe,
Yes.
the this is a big deal, obviously. If you can talk about just some typical mechanisms that you've used for these in the it looks like the correctional facilities are the ones that have been you're working on, and then if you can talk about the 6.2 million, which I think does include the 1.1 million, right?
That is
The
correct.
new one, the FY27 bond.
Yes, that's the total funds appropriated, and today we've only expended 388,000.
Right, but you have a lot to go.
We
So-
do, but there,
It just I'm curious. I'd like to know the total amount that you expect to need for all of the sites. And I know like Capitol Complex could be huge. So I suspect that Capitol Complex is not in this funding.
it is not, it was originally several years ago when this came out, I put together a price tag, and I think it was up around 12 to 15 million. I believe we're going to be below that, but how much, I'm not sure.
All right.
I'll know more when these projects go out to bid. The projects designed so far have been basically all surface. We're going, directing the stormwater to a pond or the likes of that, as opposed to having to be subsurface. Because we have the ground to do that. And that is the least expensive way to go.
Right.
As opposed to here in Montpelier, as I mentioned earlier, we're looking to put the treatment under parking lots or under something like the State House lawn and the likes of that. The biggest problem in Montpelier the amount of utilities in State Street itself. To try and even get a pipe across would require potentially a pump station. So we're not looking to do that. We're looking to do a north and south side of State Street. But right now I don't have a good idea until this goes out to bid. Where we're gonna land dollar wise. We have our estimates from our design team. And these funds that we have right now, when I asked for the additional 1.1, that's where we were headed. And I think we're going to be able to spend that, but we will be back in another year, next biennium, to have when I have a better idea of the other projects of what we're going to need to finish.
Okay, and other projects are the last two, right? Capitol Complex and Labor, the Montpelier.
Those are right. Those design there are really not complete yet. Virgins is complete. Waterbury is almost complete. And so, but they're far enough along that we have some, for like Waterbury, and Virgins, we have those estimates. We just haven't gone out to bid yet.
Okay. All right, but everything above the Capitol Complex, I'm asking
Yes.
the same question. All of those, is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 projects should be able to be accomplished with the 6.2 million?
Definitely the top four that are on this list, Waterbury and Virgins. The Waterbury site shouldn't be that much, but I don't know until I bid the other four and exactly what we're gonna have for funding left over. And the Job Corps, we're sort of in a holding pattern right now on that side because it is up in the air as to what we're going to do with that site, if anything. So we did want to go through and put a stormwater pond in and everything else, and then look to add to it or subdivide or the likes of that.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Art and State Buildings, that is the Arts Council should come in and talk about what they do with their funds. This year, they're asking for another 75,000. It is in our section. And a lot of that work does go into our buildings or sites. That they get 75,000 a year now to the work that they have to do, pay the artist. This artwork that you see here is actually not in place. Well, it's in place now, but it's at the Windsor County Courthouse in White River Junction. And that's the artwork that they had planned to put on the wall there. You don't really see it in this photo, but above there you get to see a little bit of a horse and carriage and a few other things. That was back in the 80s when the building was constructed, the original artwork that was put in. So that is still there, and these funds are augmenting stuff like that. Next up is in Rutland, we have the Asa Bloomer building on the roof repair. We've been working on this building for years now. The way it was originally constructed, there's a program that was leased, and at the end of 20 years, we ended up owning the building. But that end of 20 years, we put a lot of money into it because everything has passed its life expectancy. Most recently, we've been down there in the past. I've talked about is the sewer issues that are running through. And, when it rains, our basement floods. It was an open sewer, and it was just coming up through the basement. We are well on our way of almost completing that work right now. But now our next thing that we have to tackle is the roof. This warm weather that we're going to get is going to be horrendous to what we have up there. Our roof is down to, it's a membrane roof, and it's got fibers in it for strength. The fibers are exposed. And we actually are prepped and ready that once the snow does melt, until we can get everything to bid out, we can start construction. We're going to do a temporary repair to the size of a chunk of one of the roofs. But this also includes the skylight that you see. Part of the issue right now is we have the snow that slides off the skylight, builds up, and then works its way through the cracks into the building. And the lower photo, you can see under the angled beam, where it comes in, you can actually see where the water was behind the paint and disturbing that. So there are windows in the top photo to this left and the tan building is a window. A lot of water has also created damage around those wood windows, and much of that is going to also be repaired. So we're replacing the roof, replacing the skylight, and replacing any of the water damage that was caused by this. So the skylight gets raised a little bit so we don't have that problem in the future. Moving on to the multi-wall garage, which is right next door to the base of over the thing.
Well, Rutland's getting a lot of work done there.
It does need it. So in the multi-mall garage, it's yet another, part of the garage that we own. And one that has not seen a lot of maintenance over the years. And what's happening is in the top left photo, it is the frontage off of 4A that you see, and where the bus also enters, because on the first level, there's the bus station. To the right of that, if you're going to the bus station, you'll see this nice steel cribbing that we have up there. That's only temporary until we can actually fix the concrete and steel that are in that location. It is also the point of because the front half of the photo above you before you get to the cribbing is the ramp that is coming up off of the street. And then you go from like pitched to a level surface of parking garage. And that's where a lot of water has gotten in between that joint and it's caused some trouble. So that's a temporary fix there. The bottom two photos, you can see where the concrete is just starting to break up and fail. It's due to all of the salt ripping off of our vehicles that are parking there over time and getting into it. Any of the cracks in the joints to get into the reinforcing steel. Once that rust, that expands, and then it's popping the concrete. So a lot of this work is looking at a 10-year fix to get a lot of this repaired to prevent it from happening again, and then another 10 years we'll be at it again to minimize this. It's also repairing some of the barrier, the waterproof barrier that's on you. The hard part with the waterproof barrier in this state is studded tires. So if you run over that, a whole winter, it needs patching. Probably 5-6 years ago now, when we were still looking at 108 Cherry Street garage, our consultant had come up with a plan that would cost, and those dollars in those days, roughly $250,000 a year to maintain that 108 Cherry Street garage. So it's really about getting in there. If you can, give them a January thought, get in there and hose down to get rid of that salt if you can. Otherwise, as soon as you can, get in there, sweeping it, the likes of that, to keep that salt from sitting on that concrete. And then in the summertime, when it's warm, to go through and patch any of those damaged areas.
I know that you patched that, but when do you do an entire repaving? What's this cycle?
There isn't paving in this garage. It's concrete with, so it's got a wearing, a tapered. So remember now, concrete that's on there, so it's running, we're pitching, any of the water runoff is pitching to the storm drains, and then there's a membrane on top of that. So we are patching that now and doing a considerable amount to, probably buy us 10 years. And then in the 9-year point, be looking for additional funding to come back and do it again. In the meantime, we will be increasing our maintenance of this through Fee for Space to go through, and whether it's our maintenance staff or have to bring in a contractor to patch a section of amendment or something like that, that's what we will be doing in the next 10 years. Pittsford, the Pittsford Academy firing range upgrades. This has seen multiple upgrades since I have been here, when it used to be opening or just firing down into a berm, an earth berm. It has a roof, but the roof is vented. And what they're finding out now is, well, because they do practice and train year round, this time of year, the snow and rain come into the facility still and build up on the stuff. it's a hazard for them to be using the range when there is ice, when they're firing and walking. So what this project is looking to do is start the design process of putting a roof over the whole facility. So you still need the ventilation because you still have lead shot that's being used. So that is hazardous if we put a roof on top and seal the whole building. So we're looking to put a roof over and span that whole end, the whole range end of it, so that you still have the constant airflow in there, but you're keeping the rain and the snow out of coming in. There's also requested by the police academy is that have the ability for not just handguns, but long guns to shoot. So we did a planning study a few years ago that laid out of adding 2 lanes on the side of it, and would be extending it some, just 2 lanes beyond it. And that roof would also cover that extension. But this here is just that starting that design process for this. State has the replacement of historic interior finishes, the likes of that, and the carpet, the wear and tear on the carpet. David Schutz, the state curator, runs around, is always looking, having things repaired, the chairs, certainly in the house that are historic, the desk, some of the touch-up painting. There's touch-up painting that goes around right before you all come back in January. That is done, and that's what these funds are used for. It's also the drapes and anything else that is not. It's sort of like a mini major maintenance for the State House alone, because when you look at our major maintenance program, it's the priority one is, it has failed. It's a life safety issue. Well, some of the carpet here, the replacing the drapes is not a life safety issue. It's, not an emergent need. And so these funds here are used for that instead. So it's dedicated to the State House. So there's not that conflict of need, but had somewhat of going that, we really have to spend our money elsewhere. That's his budget that he gets to deal with on that. Major maintenance still plays a role in the State House, but these are the things that really aren't a priority one in our true major maintenance realm.
There's a light out in the ceiling.
That's maintenance. That's our operating the maintenance and 100 feet for space. We do that. Now, the light fixture got replaced. If it's historic, that could be a Davidite as opposed to major maintenance.
Nice.
So this is the fun world.
Yeah, this is the fun stuff. Joe, so it looks like there was not a appropriation in 26, and my recollection is that we had a backlog of projects, so we didn't need the funding then. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. So David has caught up and someone has exceeded what was there. So going forward, we're working with David and, helping him put a better plan together that, here's your funding. The backlog also trying to get work done. We spent 3 years trying to get the carpet replaced, a section of it, in the card room, in that whole walking path area there. But it was just found a person who would come in and do it. They said it'd be on Tuesday, and 6 months later, and even to now, we still have not heard from that individual again. So we had to go out and find another individual who would tackle it, and they finally did. So, David has remnants of this stash in every corner around here in the State House. So we already had the carpet. It's just a matter of blending it in. And so when you do go from the Cedar Creek into the card room now, if you spend a couple of years, but if you look at the carpet right as you get to the door, that was replaced with a new piece of carpet, but that person who installed it actually trimmed, gave it a haircut, really to blend in with the existing carpet around it. So it wasn't, a vibrant piece of carpet that was sticking out anymore. It actually blended in with the surrounding as much as possible. So, but yes.
That's wonderful.
It's caught up.
Thank you. That's great.
Montclair State House reporting again. What we're looking at here at the State House is we were working our way around the front facade from west to east, repointing the building, the granite facade. And when we got to the east side, the east south side, so the road facing side, that was done 3 years prior to, I think it was 2 years when we tackled the east entrance. The repointing that we had done was failing. We wanted to know why. And in a year's time on the south side, it was the same thing. It's line putty mortar. It's very unique in how line putty mortar works. It needs a little bit of water, a little bit of moisture for a week and a half to harden. And if you give it too much water, it's not good and it fails. We run a firm who actually manufactures line putty mortar, has been in business for I don't know how many years, all over the world doing this. And we brought him in to evaluate the State House, and he pointed out all our issues with moisture problems from around the windows, gutters, the roofing, everything else. So when you look at the dark stains on the granite and some of the rust that's coming through, that is moisture that's going through the granite. So whether it's in around windows or it's the moisture running off of the roof and spending too much time on it because there's a leak by the gutter, which is on the bottom left photo you see is the issue. All that can be prevented. And so what this money is doing is we're going to be putting together the design team to come out and analyze the whole exterior of the State House and take the worst first, which is probably the gutters and the roofs. That's what we can afford on how we lay out our plan, and then start tackling this. And the firm that we had hired to evaluate everything said basically right now the line putty mortar is just there for aesthetics, but we'll also, once we fix the roof and the gutters, will help draw out the moisture that's in the granite. Once that's dry, and we did have some areas when you go to the pillars out front, they're nice and dark looking around. They're almost at 100% moisture content. So we got to dry that out. Once we dry that out, we can then come back in and do a final repointing, and then we'll be done. This will probably be beyond my days still here working with the state, but it's a start, and we're working on the design RFP right now, and to go out in the street and to hire a team to come in and start that process.
Joe, this seems better than it was last year. My recollection is that it was alarming last year.
It was alarming in that I certainly didn't know, and a lot of people did not know it.
Yeah, so you've learned. That's great.
To actually point these things out to us. We've had people over the years that have come up and can remove the rust stains, but then they return in a few years. And we didn't know why. And the why is the moisture.
Great, that's helpful. That's terrific. Thank you.
Yes. 120 State Street, HVAC didn't want to have this slide should actually be in here. And the reason being is we are reallocating these funds. And the reason we are reallocating it, and I'll explain more later into the section, is that we're going to be doing a lot of work here in Montpelier complements of the flood once that works. Some work happens here at 120 State Street, but we do not want to impact our work with 120 State Street if we are going to use it for swing space or something like that, or we're looking to do an air handling system. If we do an air handling system with a chiller, what type of chiller should we use when we're looking at potentially other buildings? Should it be a central plant or something like that? So we have elected to reallocate those funds for now, not canceling the project, but come back when we have a better idea of what we're doing with the flood. Vermont State Archives, back to Middlesex. This roof here, I forget how many acres it is, but last year's funding went to the left side of the photo. So the left photo, the left side, the dark roof, it used to be copper, and it was pitted. A lot of pit holes in that copper, and we were having water drip in onto the copy machines that the copy center had. And part of that problem that they have with that is they are expensive machines. And they can damage them when too much comes on them. So that has been replaced. The white portion now, is what we're looking to replace next. The grayish,
I'm sorry. The roof was leaking.
we replaced a small section, the dark blackish area was replaced this past summer.
But it was
leaking.
leaking on the copier machine.
Yes,
Why did they move the copier machine?
because that section of building is all type of different style copy machines or sorters and the likes of that.
I was just,
So it was not that easy with,
all right,
5 or 10 leaks.
no, I
No.
just,
You move
it
one
would
of
seem
the,
to, you fix the leak, but just move the copier machine before,
right, and roof leaks are interesting in the fact that here's the leak that you're looking at on this machine. But then you're lifting up the ceiling tile. Then above the ceiling tile, there's anywhere between 1 foot to 4 feet of decking, and that is corrugated decking. So in that corrugated decking and the insulation that's on top of that, it's very difficult to find out where that goes. So it's not just right above you. And that was part of the problem, and it didn't leak all the time. So when we went up there, we thought we fixed the leak, and then, 5 storms later, it leaked back in that same spot. That's all done now. Now where the gray and sort of white membrane is, that's where all the public records are stored. That's all the paper. That's being done this summer. These funds. Print postal, same spot, no such, right on the roof. This project's been kicked around for a while. We had some additional funds when they did an addition to the Sarah area, and there's some funds left over. And at that time, we had to move. Sarah got some space that used to be owned and used by Print Postal, and vice versa. So the loading docks out back, they got swapped around and some different things. So during that time frame, we also found out that the UPS that was running all of these critical machines was turned out to be too small for the new machines that they were coming in. And the machines are oversized computers. So when it loses power, it basically kills the hard drive. And it's thousands of dollars or more to replace these hard drives to get the machines back up and running. So we're looking to add additional funds that we have, and we're working on now to get this project bid out and replace the UPS so that it'll be the proper size for that equipment. Waterbury, the historic core roof replacements, when the rebuild was being done after Irene, a lot of the roofs were not replaced at that point in time. A lot of the brickwork was repointed and fixed, but there was not enough funding to do all of these roofs. We are very happy in the fact that my estimating was actually way too high for once, if not low. And we've got a great contractor in there and has done everything on, when you look at the site plan on the bottom section of the photo here, the darker gray has already been completed. And our money went quite far with that. In fact, we had a little bit of funds left over that we're moving forward with building F, the remaining funds. And so these additional funds that we're getting are to complete GH, public safety, and Hanks building. If our bids hold, the money that we're asking for will probably be enough, but I never know the bidding climate. 32 Cherry Street parking garage. This is requesting additional funds for a project that has already started. It's well underway right now, and what happened, this garage is in worse shape than Rutland. Better shape than Wellington though. So we are going through there, and the area that you see that you can see the rusted steel and everything, that all has to be cut out. The bottom left photo, you can see some the spalling and the cracks and the salt residue that's coming through. All that has to be removed. The steel, some of the steel is replaced, some of it is cleaned, and I'll put back, including again new membrane to keep everything nice and dry for the future. This project, is slated to be completed, I think, next March, but also, requires a partial closure of the garage, the renting space across the street, the parking garage over there. But the hard part is it's still, the people who need better secure parking still need to be in this space. Any other people that are going, to court, that have been, holding at a correctional facility are coming in the garage also, because that is where that sally port is for the vehicles for the sheriff to bring them in. So it's a coordination thing that has to happen. So we're hoping that the funds that are in front of us will certainly get us through.
Joe, a couple questions on this one. Thank you. So is it a public garage?
No, this one is not open to the public. This one is really for, judiciary, state's attorney.
Okay,
Not sure, AHS has some spots in there. There may be some for jury duty, but I'm not 100% sure.
okay.
But it's not all assigned to some people, but I'm not sure how that works.
So there's a gate to it.
There, yes,
Sounds
yes,
like-
you need card access.
Okay, and then I don't think this question is for you, but for the financial people, but the bond of 500,000 and then cash of 3 million. Do you know why that was chosen? That,
That, basically because we are looking to have this job complete by March of next year, March, April of next year. So all that cash would be spent. I mean, that's why they assigned the cash to it, because it'll go out the door real quick.
okay. Okay.
Hmm.
Thanks.
You're welcome. That's it for section 2. The other sections, I think we're looking at section 17, the bonded reallocations. Scott has produced a nice spreadsheet for you that's highlighted in yellow. And those are the items that are bonding funds that we are looking to reallocate those funds basically to the bottom line of the capital bill to be reinvested in this year's request. So we're looking at here with the East Cottage renovation. We had some funds left over. That project's been complete now for a number of years. To give those funds back, the bonded funds back. BGS various projects. I don't have in front of me today that breakdown of 1.6 million. But a lot of that work that we have there are for projects that have been complete. Or I know one of them is 120 State Street. That's on there. And again, as I said earlier, we're looking to reallocate those funds. And so by reallocating those funds now, it went to the bottom line, but we will be back later with a capital bill request once we know what we're doing with the greater capital complex of what is actually needed. And we'll be back to asking for those funds. Newport, the courthouse replacement. I believe there are 2 years of funding in the various projects and what we have there. And so what we're looking at doing there is basically the same thing. We're sitting on a lot of bonded money. That's old money. It's by statute, 5 years or beyond has to be reallocated. So that's what we're looking to do is we need the money still, but we are giving it back now because of the statute and not reallocating it to the project because sort of like 120, Newport is on the cusp of moving forward. It's just not 100% there yet. And so we believe that we have the time to go through now and give those funds back and be coming back later to ask for the additional funding. HS Women's Correctional Facility. Again, whole funding 21, moving that forward, but that was the money that's left remaining there. It was really to put to the bottom line because when you look at the out years, we do have additional funds in there that if we were to able to find land and act on purchasing the land, we have enough money for that in place right now. So there would be no reason not to give that money back to the bottom line. Again, we will be back in the future where we do need it.
Well, we have no like,
That is correct. We did a search for, land, and it was state-owned land first. It was a priority. And we had two prospective pieces of property that the state owned in Essex Junction. But that also, Essex had, zoning, basically, for a correctional facility and the likes of that. On the property where Woodside was, which is
Yeah.
where our mental health facility is now. And we asked them if they would consider rezoning,
they turned it down.
and they said their vote was no at the time.
And that was the select board, right?
Yes, yeah, and that was the process that you go through. And so that's what we were working on, and now it's
We're back to square one.
next week to go out and put out on the street an advertisement to whoever we can, and that we're looking for 24 plus acres of land for a correctional facility that is, really on a paved road. Don't want dirt, but we would like paved. It can be, it doesn't have to be on that class 2 road. It can be off of the one sort of like Newport is. And then looking at, 3-phase power, water, sewer. We really don't want to be on our own water and sewer system. And we don't have to be a high-speed internet. So those are things that we're looking for. And of course, we want the perfect level piece of land because that looks best. Department of Corrections is looking at for the people that are working now in Chittenden and where they get their services from for the women are basically the Chittenden County area. So that's where they're going to be looking. But to find a flat piece of land in Chittenden County of 20 to 24 acres is,
No, it's difficult. That,
it's difficult. It's not that it can't be done. It's,
What's the duration? Or bids to come or proposals to come in?
it hasn't hit the street yet.
Yeah, I heard. you say that.
So I don't recall with that. I 3 weeks. I think so. We're not looking for anybody, it's give us a Google map of the property and we'll have our design team do an assessment of the properties.
Yeah.
And then go through and rank them and, good to bad. When we were doing this for the the mental health facility in Woodside, when we did that, it was properties that met some of those, but there one piece of property that we had in very great acreage, water, sewer, everything. However, it just happened to be, a 20-foot low spot in the center of the property. So you could really build on one side and the other. That bridge middle. So it's like, okay, it ranks high and all these other issues, but really the site doesn't work because of the delay of the land. So that's the assessment that we would do. And with that really is, the development. We did this for the women's facility when we were even looking at our own properties. So, is there's ledge? What are you looking at when there's ledge? Because of the cost of blasting and the likes of that.
So I would say end of March, potentially, some.
We have a list that we're hoping for if we can get this out.
Yeah.
By next week that I think, yes, it could be there. And I'll get our team on there to do that analysis and to work through everything.
realistically though, I mean, this is not gonna come to fruition for 3 to 5 years.
Probably by the time you have a property, and part of that search also is whether or not zoning is there for it. Because if we have to go through zoning again, all bets are off in that time frame, and whether or not it's worthwhile. So if we were looking at a perfect property, it's still gonna be, we're not purchasing it until we can get zoning altered. But to that size of a property, to complete the design and construct it, with just a quick look at my crystal ball of, the work we're doing here, Montpelier and everything else. Yeah, it would be that length of
I
time.
absolutely, I'm just, it's concerning and disappointing, and I can say a lot of other negative things. the women's prison right now is in incredible disrepair and needs to be upgraded and and can't do it in place, unfortunately. Just it's incredibly disappointing.
Yeah, right, piece of
I'm
property,
muted. Oh, I'm
Oh.
sorry. Go ahead.
3 years.
3
Yes,
years for design.
If you had the right piece of property, you could probably get there in 3 years.
What do you mean get there?
Have a facility designed and built. They give about 2 years to build it, a good year for design and permitting. So, but it'd have to be the right piece of property.
Right,
With no
everything,
real impediments. Yeah,
but permitting goes right through, not an issue. The, Act 250, the likes of that, you're right, but that's what, sort of that 3 to 5 year window, not knowing it.
But Joe, can you speak to the funding? Because I'm concerned that the funding might not be ready if we do get an ideal situation. And it would be a shame for that to be our problem.
yeah.
Well, right now, even though we're reallocating some that's here on the spreadsheet, we still have enough funds to purchase property and continue with the design. That I think, by the time we have property to evaluate, end of March, Chittenden County, this year's not a good year because of the amount of snow that we have, to start getting out and looking at the property, it'd definitely be in April. But we could still start that design. I mean, we can get through almost all the schematic, I could say almost all schematic design and some design development without knowing the perfect piece of property, but doing that. But it helps to know the property because, if it's a slope property, can we make it work with 2 levels in certain areas versus 1 level, the likes of that. But next biennium, if we had the property purchased and we were going through design, we would back in the next biennium for that design cost. And then looking to also do what is up next, for construction. What does that construction timeframe look like? Again, you've been on the weather. I've done winter projects before. I've even had contractors at no additional cost do the construction in the winter to keep the crew working. Typically, that's when the economy is a little not as very good right now. But all that comes into play. When we, put it on the street, bid it, have a contractor, know what their bottom line is, and it'll still be a few years to ask for that funding.
I think.
Okay, that's the part I wanted. I want to have a more specific number. So what do we have so far?
Off the top of my head, I could not tell you.
I think it's in the teens. And I've heard 100 million to build it. to
For the
design.
estimate to construct.
Yeah. Well, the whole project.
Yeah, I know there have been multiple numbers thrown out there. A lot of it is site specific also. I think we have to look at what the population was when we first looked at it. It was COVID. The numbers were down substantially because of the changes that corrections went through and judiciary and everything else on who can be out on the street for different reasons. And then also, but now we have a bubble because everybody's catching up because of the COVID that, they're over full. And it's really what is that mean average to be looking for? And all that is corrections to be picking that.
But if I could, just listening to the chair and Senator Major's comments is, what we don't want to do is set ourselves up where we have to stop because the funding isn't available. And if I look at where you are in the potential, I would think we want to be in a position that you have the money to find the right property, purchase it, and move immediately into design development and completion of the design. Construction certainly is going to come into the next biennium, but you could find yourself, if everything went right, we'll cross our fingers for that, that you don't have enough money to complete the full design process before the next allocation of funds.
That is true, but if we found, for argument's sake, end of April, we found a piece of property, I still have to, because the design team we're working with right now, it was all in the planning for the other two pieces of property. So I gotta go back out to bid for an architectural engineering team. And so part of that is going to be probably a 5-month process in and of itself to be advertising it and ranking everybody and selecting the correct team to move forward and get a contract in place. The size of this building, we don't have just one A&E team here in the state that can do the work. They'll team up with some other outside experts. And at least that's what we've seen to date. So there is that. So there's almost, we find the property, we evaluate it and put an option on it, but we're not going to be designing April 1st if we find the property. So
I'm just asking a question.
Right.
We don't.
if everything aligned, and I've never been here when everything aligned, but it'd be nice, that would be the day I retire, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm out. So until we know more of even, what we're moving forward with permanent corrections and likes of that, it's all up in the air. But I do have enough money that if we found land, we could put an option on that and be ready to purchase. Get
All right,
started.
so if you could tell us the balance so far, if you don't have to tell us now, but just let us know that number, please.
I don't know that number off the top of my head.
Right, that's fine, but you can send it to us, and
Yes,
and my recollection of the highest number that I've heard is 100 million for everything. So if you have that number too, that would be helpful, but I don't know that you generated that number.
And people wanna pay that for prison.
correctional facilities are expensive.
Yeah.
And it's, million plus a bed. But then again, that's what we're seeing in the health facility, a juvenile facility, that's.
Yeah.
The only price when I first started, it was $300,000 a bed.
And remember that the main one is less expensive per unit.
It was because of the type of building, that was just for a reentry facility. So there are no real hardened walls, security systems like that, because they had the main facility that was up the hill that the women would go to. This facility that we're looking at doing would be both a secure facility and a reentry facility. So that's why the cost of per bed cost would be higher because of the secure facility.
Yeah, I did think that the main model, the main the primary building in Maine was also less expensive, but we can find that out later.
And quite frankly, I blame Senator Plunkett for keeping hope from the people in there, so.
You got the Judiciary Committee, a couple of them. They're helping.
Let's see. Was there anything else on that line item specific? I know there were various, ACCB, the unmarked burial. I know that's not a BGS one, but I think that's where, those funds to be returned because they're no longer needed.
Joe, just on all of those projects, the fund number or the number that comes after PGS, the first two numbers for the year that it was.
Yes, that is known as a deck ID.
Yes.
The first two numbers are the year of the act. The next one is the actual, the next two are the paragraphs, and I mean,
I don't
Goes all the way
I don't
down
need to have the whole thing decoded, just the year, so.
well, I had to put my employees at times, I go shopping for all this stuff. So yeah, so the first two are the year of the act, then it's 3 digits are the act. And then you get down into the sections and paragraphs. And like I said, our discussion earlier before we started was. Section 2 is different than the other sections where it had various projects in that in section 2, like I just ran through. All those projects are in section 2, as opposed to having a separate debt ID for every single project. There's a line item. If there's nothing else under bonded reallocations, there's the cash fund sources. And these are similar, other than that the clawback timeframe is 3 years for cash instead of 5. So what we're looking through here is just the fact that, in this case, this debt ID, for some reason, they veered off substantially.
Mhm.
And the 900 was, no, because this is the first time cash came out, 900 meant cash. And then we got into the year. And so you have 23 in there. So all these funds are in 23 that are looking to be, given back to the other projects and for, I think once we're actually gonna get done with the repo committee, or looking to ask for some, remember that's only the bond funds, sorry. So yeah, all this here is funds are being reallocated back to cash fund in this year's request. So you see the Superior Court. That one is similar to 120 to Newport, in the fact that we did a land search in Barry twice maybe, and we have not. And so we're at a point of, could we renovate the existing building? And what do we do then with the other tenants in the building if we did that? Temporary space to do a renovation within a courthouse, operating courthouse anyways. So that is another study that we're working on to see what we can do. So that's why that cash was given back. The Rutland Field Plan Design, that is public safety. And we were just sort of lagging behind getting that project out the door. We're now under design, and that the public safety building that goes from the north side of Rutland to the southern side, outside of Rutland to Clarendon, on a piece of property that we own. But we do have enough other funds to complete that design. The EV charging stations, that's all funds that we just couldn't get out the door. And then we have 120 State Street again, same situation where we're gonna be coming back with that, but it's old cash that had to be reallocated, so it was okay to be given up.
Good. All right, so any other questions from the commission? Anything else, Chair?
I have nothing else.
All right, and with that, we can adjourn.
Thanks.